A great quote I love is Carolyn Forche once said that like classical music, not everybody listens to it. Very few people listen to it, but it needs to exist, right, as part of like humanity. And I
Hmm.
think that's cool. That's a cool thing to think about, right?
Okay. Good response. Keep these brief. I have like 40 of these, so very genuine response, but just shorten it down. Oh yeah, where's the book? I keep meaning to read this book that you wrote. Someone You Love Is Still Alive. What's it about? What's it about? Is it good, bad? How do you feel about it? Proud of it?
Well, I for a long time, I like a lot of other people felt like there's so much terrible stuff going on in the world that it feels paralyzing sometimes. You know, you're like, especially with the quarantine now. Obviously, this is written before that, but sometimes you feel like, you know, if there's so much terrible stuff in the world, if everything I read online is horrible, if people on social media are terrible to each other, how do I find some kind of ray of light, or how do I find some kind of way forward for that? And so for me, it was more about looking at the things that are directly in front of me, looking at the person I love more than anything, looking at like a small group of friends or family, and finding that as like an act of rebellion to say that I'm not going to let all of those negative things. I can think about them and I can be aware of them and I might have feelings about them, but you kind of have to actively reach for positivity in the world that we're in right now. And so I think that the love of one other person, like deep, intimate love of another person or persons, um, is a way forward maybe in that. At least that's what I kind of believe. And that's what I was thinking about, at least. When I,
You're referencing your wife here, I hope, I assume.
yes. Yeah. And great friends and family and those kinds of things.
Yeah, but it's not exactly a book of love poems like the title might hint towards. I did read a few, I'll admit. I thumbed through there. It also I don't know if celebrates is the right word, but you get alcohol, drug use, parties, fights, all sorts of stuff mingled in together. So,
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to leave anything out. I think a lot of times, at least like, you know, I teach creative writing. I think a lot of times people like make things off limits for themselves. They might be like taboo for themselves for some reason. And so I kind of wanted to just, I think that the entire scope of your experience is not just this one tiny part of happiness or this one tiny part of sadness, right? We're going to drive down the street and be angry at someone. We're going to get upset when we go to the grocery store and have to stand in line with a mask on. And those things should be in poems, I think, because they are who we are as human beings and they show the totality of our experience rather than just, you know, oh, I'm a happy person who wants to stare at trees all day, which is a great existence if you want to do that. But for me, at least, I want it to be like, you know, I wanted to show the full or the wide range and scope of human emotions.
that makes sense. And I think that's in the book. But what do you tell like students or other people that just do focus on something that you would consider banal or boring? Is there anything off limits that you try to talk yourself out of, or your students like, maybe try to avoid this subject or this theme?
I would just say to think about the intent of it. Like I have a piece of paper in my above my writing desk that says, "Why does this poem need to exist?" And I think if we're like trying to, like, if you really think about what is the purpose of writing about this subject matter? Is it to make myself sound cool, right? Is it to get back at someone or get revenge in some ways, right? Or is it to, you know, write to understand or write to interrogate or write to put yourself on trial? Those kinds of things are, in my mind, better reasons to write a poem. So I would just, if I was like, I think it's great for people to write into their obsessions, but it's just probably best to try to find a new way into them, or to think more about tone, right? If you're writing the same poem about the same subject matter, but it's also in the same tone, right? Or the same kind of emotional perspective, right? If you're constantly writing poems that are just love poems, or if you're constantly writing just anger poems, then I would say that, well, maybe we need to think about like, how do I come at it from a completely different angle, tonally, I guess.
Mix it up,
Yeah,
make it new, keep it fresh.
correct.
Thank you. Uh, Yeah, it's a hard one. It seems like poetry is not as in vogue as it used to be, but it seems like it could be. It's a shorter form. People are not reading it long form as much as they used to. How do we make this go Richter? How do we bring poetry to the forefront for students, adults, mainstream stuff? How do you make it cool?
I mean, I dream of a world where we get into an elevator and instead of a John Mayer song, it's like somebody reading a poem, but that's just not the way that we come to,
Like that. That's
that
nice.
we come to poems. We come to poems. It takes more of us. It takes more of us like being active to come to a poem, right? We're not driving down the street listening to poems on the radio. And so I think that if you expect a bunch of people to come to poetry and love it immediately, it's really kind of like an unfair expectation of a kind of art that is just asking a little something different. So I think if like, and again, if you look at intent, if you're trying to be noticed by a ton of people for a certain art, you shouldn't be writing poetry. You know what I mean? You should be doing something that like people are famous for, because there's very few famous poets. But I think that like again, it's valuable. But I think what I try to do is just to give myself small attainable goals. So I might say like, okay, I have a first book. I just want to sell 50 copies of the first book, right? So that I have like a very, very specific and attainable goal that if I achieve that goal, it's something that I can enjoy and can celebrate. But I think a lot of people that get into art say, especially musician friends of mine, when you first get into music, would say, I want to be famous. I just want everyone to know me. I want to be rich, right? But there's so much value between being rich and famous and just making art that you dig and want to show a few people. And both of those experiences could probably be very valuable. I wouldn't know. I'm not rich and famous.
Yeah, there could be some overlap someday,
Right.
nowadays. Um, well, that was way more serious than I wanted it to be, but I appreciate the candor. And then I have a couple jokes that are gonna miss here. I'm not gonna get into. But thank you for joining us, you Ephraim, and also anyone at home or on the car. This is Dr. Sommers' book, Someone You Love Is Still Alive, and there's a link in the chat if you scroll to the top.
Yeah.
And you don't need to know much. He's a very good friend of mine. That's all you need to know. I have great taste. He has a doctorate degree. He teaches out of, is it Rock Hill, South Carolina?
Mm-hmm.
And this is his second book of poetry. So I'm going to just hand it over to you. Thank you for joining us. I love you. Good luck out there, buddy.
Thanks. Thanks for everybody for hanging out and for the gift of your time. I realize that's a thing of value, right? So again, this is the book. It's called Someone You Love Is Still Alive. It's from Jakar Press, which is out of North Carolina. And I'm just going to read a few of these poems for a little bit. Thank you so much again for hanging out. This first poem is the first poem in the book, and it's called While America Mourns, I Write a Letter to My Sister. I have heard the news of Newtown, but sister, please excuse this carburetor mouth on my lawnmower heart, buzzing along the perfumed fences of honeysuckle and morning glory. For I have tried to trim my long-windedness down as quietly as the maple leaf before me grows rusted, as a caterpillar bellying along a mint sprig just is, as hushed as the jacaranda whose buds like snow go on coating the sidewalks with lavender. But I apologize for how I feel about this afternoon, for how I hum on and on about the green hair of the growing world beneath me. For how I hum as if my teeth were bees. I hum and hum again. And I'm sorry, sister, for such humming, because on a complicated August day like this, I had promised to tell you a secret about the woman across the street, with a glass of what could only be lemon and melancholy in her left hand. The woman bowing her head in worship before the hibiscus bush, with its orange faces that have peeled open like glorious orange bananas. And sister, just last night, the man in work boots loved this woman so much, He wrecked his black Chevy through the front wall of her house and into her living room, but praised the gods of evening salsa dance classes that the woman wasn't home. And while they handcuffed the man in work boots, my wife and I drank boozy Arnold Palmers on our porch. And my wife's house, my wife's nose, washed in the swirling siren of lights, was like the cross in the highest stained glass window of the Cocoa Beach Bible Church. Sister, the roots on the maple in my front yard are destroying my driveway. The surgeon who saved my ruptured spleen is dead of lymphoma. There was a shooting in Aurora. There was a shooting in Orlando, in Parkland, a shooting in Fort Lauderdale, and there will be a shooting in Las Vegas in 2017, and there is racism, and there is rape, and there is a dragonfly like a tiny, sparkling passenger plane that is at this moment, with its lateral propellers, fuzzing around a dead possum in the street. Sister, I've seen all of this. And do not think that I don't care about the man in work boots and the hibiscus woman he loves and the sadness and mess of all the purple houses in this purple and assaulted world gone dark. Of the sun-scratched grass and hibiscus barely surviving. Do not think I don't hear daily the language of dirt urging me down root deep forever. But sister, my wife for me sometimes in the porch with her tangerine toes is a big pair of bourbon sunglasses. And when I look through those lenses, the breath of the earth goes green and quiet behind me. A hot August day and the sunshine on my wife's feet dangling off the porch.
I had to unmute for that, Ephraim. That's great.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right. This next one is, so I spent some time once in New Orleans, Louisiana, and actually Dustin was there on this particular experience, which is kind of funny. But this is called A New Orleans Dancer Wrecks the Border Between Florida and Louisiana. My wife hoists a hot gallon of mayonnaise like a fat newborn up to the Louisiana sun. And summer slathers its greasy butter knives across our foreheads. And friends, in 2018, we've finally given up drawing lines across our lives. And you too should join us. For maybe we never were from any place. For if desire is a thing we can only hold with our eyes, then let us allow ourselves to keep looking a little longer at everything in front of us. For this is what it means to belong to the future. This is the hour of invincibility and deliciousness. This propane barbecue party on the back patio of Hustler's Strip Club at high noon, where a woman named Alicia in yellow high-top Jordans is lovingly manning the hissing grill. Alicia topless and tiger stripe tattooed. Alicia juggling meat patties and spatulas with a thin square of American cheese pasted across one nipple. Alicia, the woman my wife shares a big, thick, and lit Cuban cigar with. So this is love, friends. And you're here too, friends. And there is no music blasting too bass heavy over this scene of 20 or so topless bodies. No screaming, no belligerence. Just the humming buzz of coming to common ground together, of our elbows bubbling up from the mimosas alive inside us, and like experimental angels newly arrived to our new heaven, let us enjoy this barbecue, where a flat-top man with perfect abs in the doughboy pool is receiving an underwater hand job from his husband. And I love the way each of us allows it. How each of us is side-eyeing with a stretching of arms, a readjustment of the shoulders or sunshades, which is to say, I love our nonchalance today, my friends. I love the way you are unanxious with us. Thank you. And I love the way even live nudity after so much looking has become routine. And since my wife and I and you and the flat top man with perfect abs and his husband have shared our histories and our shish kebabs with our new friends who are still clocked in. My wife is asking them for a few dances now, asking as easily as when a Southern grandmother stops a stranger at the market for direction to the candied hams. And the ATM deals out the green stacks of ones like confetti into the celebration of our fingers. My friends, we are not nervous, though this is our first time. Because Alicia shall take great care with us, she has assured. Alicia, who will defend her dissertation on the blue-footed booby next spring. And we didn't bring you inside this room for sexiness exactly, my friends, or boners, or the perfume, no. We've come today to shimmy ourselves a wee bit different through the coming decades-long parade of sameness, the room exploding in a storm of neon now, the music decibels swelling mountainous now, but we can still hear our friend Alicia assuring us while she sizzles around her pillar of chrome, the stage her throne, and I want to watch my wife and I and you and Alicia destroy the old world of brick walls together. Are you with us? To wreck the border and trundle glistening and glittered into the new territory of the proud body appeased. So Alicia places a chair on stage, into which she places my wife, onto whom she places herself doing a headstand. And through my wife's jeans, while the mostly empty room and you and the flat top man with perfect abs and his husband linger on and on, Alicia blows laughter into my wife's crotch, then reels me on stage, removes my shirt, guides me down on all fours, and trots me around the slippery wood like some damn brand new birthday pony. And we are not ashamed. Now, maybe we should perhaps have a shorter poem. I realize you're kind of like, how long are these?
That was awesome. I wish I wasn't implicated in that particular poem, but that was still beautiful language. Thank you for that.
Thank you. All right. This one's a little shorter. I used to have a friend who played in a hardcore band when we were young. He also kind of was enlisted into the Army at around the time the Iraq War happened. And he came home and we went to a hardcore show, and I kind of had never seen his band play live. So this is kind of that experience. I call him brother in the poem because I feel like he is a brother of mine. This is called My Brother Goes Oh High Flying. So begins the game of how long I can hold a fist around it. This thin red stem of a lit bottle rocket before it blossoms 3 fingers off my right hand. The game of rainbowing lit bottle rockets out the side window of the minivan. Because my brother, Delta 259, is back home for the first time since boot camp began, with a V-crossed bill on his Dodgers cap and Baghdad on his list of imminent possibilities. So tonight, the two of us Piccolo Pete down the 33 freeway, messy and reckless as the way we love each other but won't say it out loud. The same way I've never told my father something so simple as I don't want you to die. Instead, we are buck-knifing into the night. This big black roadblock of sky, we are slicing fire right through it with the knees blown out of our Levi's. And having parked the minivan, the ritual of Jolt Cola begins. The ritual of $2 in a coffee can, of a hardcore show in a brick basement with a low ceiling and the crowd already stomping foxholes into the floor. And the lead singer with a gash in his forehead is eating the microphone. The drummer stabbing a stick through his snare. And this is the future we are rumbling into. This pit, this war, this tonight I follow my brother inside and through. This darkness and feedback I begin to lose him to. This holy tonight beneath these jagged lips, and all this salt is a thing to kill for, this family history. And now everyone I've ever lost is right here with me, moshing and floor punching through this hurricane of bruises for the right to stay alive in this loud little room on this tiny little night in which my brother is being lifted up over our heads, and on a river of open palms, he is floating away. All right. This next poem, Rich Reynolds knows my sister, so does Dustin. My sister is a police officer in San Francisco, Contra Costa County in the East Bay area of California. And this poem is for her. This is called My Sister Sings Reba at 43. My sister's also a singer in a metal band, which is kind of funny. Her name is Shauna, and this poem's for her. To worship the earth, we barefoot down to the water because we have never been clean. And for this dirty mercy, my sister kneels in her wetsuit to the smell of surf wax at 7 a.m. Kneels to the car key stashed in the wheel well and the first open eyeful of ocean. And yes, Lord, no way around it, my sister today will accept a broken nose full of the granite reef, handed down to her by the gods of the southwest swell. By blood, by green, by mud, by tide, my sister will be held under by the world. But because she swans back to the surface, punched out of breath, but having survived, my sister kneels to pray in the key of steel guitar and sunshine to the ripped down posters of old rodeos, to the wet way of hay on a boot heel, to the tush push and the electric slide, and the wide mouthful of wild she finds while surfing the hot highway home in the back of a golden Ford F-150. My sister survives. And you could call my sister the breeze these many July mornings. But my sister does not soar like a sky on nights when beneath the weight of the pistol in her waist, she serves with a police badge of shine across San Francisco. For my sister must know how a kid's face caves in on the 4th of July after a firework has flown halfway through it. And my sister must kneel to find a dead father in the street on the double yellow line, to find a runaway daughter, to survive a man standing in a creek at midnight, firing a rifle at God. My sister knows the trauma as water, the song as rugged, the body as sinking. So Lord, thank you for saving my sister who sings with what it means to be the bull and the rider and the war paint melting down the face of a rodeo clown. What it means to chase a smile around a filthy ring. Yes, Lord, to chase the next wave. Or the next dance of tight asses and Wrangler pants. Or a next of kin. Or the last long finishing note of the evening before loading up the truck with loneliness and heading home. Because finally, Lord, in the filthy bar, here we are. And finally, Lord, here before us rises my sister like an ocean beside the microphone. While muddy lights crumble down dirty upon the black cowboy hats of the country band. And by brown bottles of California mud, here the filthy chords are about to start. My sister saunters up in the armor of a leather jacket, of purple lipstick, of steel teeth, of burgundy boots. And you who are listening should hold your breath. Because my sister has got a tattoo of a bull on the wave of her back. And she's going to buck you off. And she's going to elbow you down deep. Because my sister knows how long to hold you under, and how to save you, and how to kill you, and how to tell you someone you love is dead. Someone you love is still alive. So I think I got time for about 2 more. Does that sound good? I hope.
At least, bro. I think we got time for 10 or 12 more poems. That was your sister's a badass. It just reminded me of how gnarly she is.
That is great.
Rich, yeah, they're just, very rich work.
Thanks so much.
Reminds me I'm not a poet, not a real poet.
Everybody's a poet.
Thanks a lot.
All right, so I guess we'll do 3 more or so. This one is called When They Said Atlas Held the Earth Upon His Shoulders. It's got a epigram by Bertolt Brecht, and it's The quote is, "What kind of times are these when to talk about trees is almost a crime because it implies silence about so many horrors?" When they said Atlas held the earth upon his shoulders, it must have been a metaphor for my lover and me in 2018. For we who are so Atlas and anxious, my friends, for the sassafras tree out back of our apartment even, as it labors its own globe of difficult nations into the spring dream between its tangled arms, and it keeps the whole thing living through summer. Those sassafras leaves, when they let go, though, aren't Nigeria's or New York's. They aren't people. They don't die in mass homicides or missile strikes. They don't matter, I know. But don't you too overload your skull full of metaphor when there is no other way to fathom all that is dead in the world. No right way to hold them in these many branched hands, my friends. The leaves, therefore, today I shall suggest are only leaves, are only thumbnails gnawed off, only stray hairs in middle age the new scalp never needed to save. Only eyelashes, yes, and each brown one whispered onto the earth's cheek right now is the wish every one of us should be making. Let this simple joy of lifting my lover up above me, despite the burdened world I carry inside me for one more day, be certain. All right, this one is called "And So the Bottle Has Sung, Is Still Singing, and Will Still Sing." For anybody who likes to get drunk and go camping, this one is for you. All right, and so the bottle has sung, is still singing, and will still sing. And so in my blood has always been a shotgun shell, and I have always been a mouth running away from its body. I want, I want, I want, I want, I want. And so goes this copy of a copy of a copy of human longing and overreaching and guilt and apology. And so American and so goddamn expected. I can't stop living inside this hollow barrel about to blow. And so the destination I always wake up foggy and uncertain about while shoving the backs of my wrists against my eyes. And so the jamboree of forgettable days I must rifle through begins another time, begins now. And I wake up yuck-mouthed again to search for something inside my cell phone, for all the faces I will never have. And so I wake up full of holes and needing to be reprimed, a boxed up roller coaster floating away on a flatbed trailer. And so I wake up, and so I rise and search for another spot in America to get drunk on. I load up the bottle and fire my life right through it. All right, 2 poems left. This one is called "My Heart is a Time Machine." It's about a really good friend of mine. When I played in a band for a long time, I was good friends. You become good friends with other bands. You play festivals and things like that together. And this is about a friend who passed away that was a good friend, a guitarist in another band. His name was Kanan. In the poem, I call him by another name, but really his name's Kanan. This is called "My Heart is a Time Machine." Another brother's funeral has ended, and I must take my body back to May of 1999 to stop the sunshine. Must begin again in our hotel room with the girl too drunk on wild turkey to stand. The girl hoisting a full keg of Keystone Light up onto her shoulder. The girl grenading the keg through the coffee table. The girl leaping up onto the bed. The girl taking 3 fan blades to the face that send her somersaulting all the way through our hotel window and onto the sidewalk. I'll forgive you for laughing, as my friend Devin and I and the whole room are now. Because my friend Devin and I are 25 and high on the same pills, which will, like tiny yellow bullets, in 7 months, in a different hotel room, in a different town, whisper him into a permanent sleep. Now that we are here, I promise to tell you the truth. In May of 1999, you cannot tell anyone in this room, in these bands, with these ukuleles in their arms and these floating festival feelings they have put into their mouths to stop. You can never tell anyone to stop anything, my friends. So you must forgive us. Forgive them. Forgive the drunk girl who stumbles back into the room and waterfalls down another slug of wild turkey. The drunk girl who only wants the drummer to love her. And you must forgive the drummer who never will. Forgive Devin and me so deep into a conversation about Roger Waters, we don't notice the anger the drunk girl gathers in her elbow, which becomes the shining purple mountain over the drummer's eye. Forgive us for not noticing when their story ghosts like a landscape painting silently into the background of darkness, inching toward light. Forgive us for not laughing anymore. For is this hello or goodbye? Because it is almost morning and I'm still uncertain. Because what do Devin and I look like now, leaving the broken window behind? Dawn seems to have eased out of us, something as tender as a full head of long hair. And I believe we are whispering about the opening guitar solo of the Wish You Were Here album now, or the album is playing somewhere now. And we are sneaking so quietly through the courtyard, Devin and I, as the sound men breaking down the festival stage wind up their cables like kind fathers tying their daughter's shoes, as the drunk girl snores on the drummer's lap in a pool chair. And Devin walks in front of me with the almost finished bottle of wild turkey in one hand we are passing between us. There is a joint for the both of us I am licking. And when we round the corner and stare straight into the Pink Floyd sunrise, forgive me, friends. There is always an instant every time I'm telling this story when I get here that I want to be the one disappeared by light who never was, because no one wants to be what's left over and what's left of this morning. Hello or goodbye. I seem to be saying both. We are almost finished, and forgive me again for going back so often, my friends, but I need you to squeeze inside my blood. Help me remember this final sunrise in which Devin is taking off his shirt and letting down the blonde rainforest of his hair and dancing to the music that is only in his head. And one by one, the waking people are coming into the field to join him. A flock of musician women and men and poets dancing barefoot circles in the dirt to Shine On You Crazy Diamond, playing only in my friend's head. And my friend Devin is spinning around silently in the center of all of us, playing the bottle of wild turkey like a saxophone, like a last photograph, like a parting metaphor, like a sentimental machine, which is in very few moments of monumental pressure strong enough to stop time. All right, last poem. Thank you again so much for hanging out. If you do want to get your hands on this book, Someone You Love Is Still Alive, or this book, The Night We Set the Dead Kid on Fire, I'll sign them for you, whatever. My website is at the top of the chat. So please shoot me a message or order off my website. I'd be really appreciative of that. But I am very appreciative of you just listening. This last poem is called My Wife Gets Searched at the San Diego International Airport. My wife and I have stolen a tiny astonishment together from the world, and we will never be found out. Behold another new nature, we keep our knees locked in. The first long line at 5 a.m. for an unoccupied computer to hush the luggage away to we know not where. 2 nights ago, she and I floated the cosmos over PBR and pineapple pizza, but we mum our bright past, knowing any present moment could be an in-between, such as this airport is. Another line to be a stone and go unnoticed, and security, no laughing matter, security, no poetry allowed. We don't want to fit in everywhere else in our lives but here, where I would sucker punch a plane for her, pick a pistol from a policeman's holster and one arm a hostage. And I want the universe to know this, but not here. Here we back pocket our verbs, cell phone our secrets. The escalator ticks and ticks, and the state by random chemical swab beeps my lover's hands as high risk or terrorists, the glass cage, the x-ray. 2 guards unzip her life and spread it out across the metal, fondle each compartment. Did we stash any loveliness pills or kindness inside and forget my love? We can't remember. Ours is the speech of eyebrow and cheek. Arm in arm, we are always armed. And in a crowded corner such as this, I've learned to treat anyone not my lover as less than human. But I'm trying to unlearn it as we are escorted to a private screening room where 2 guards unzip her body, touch against her bra with 2 gloved fingers, the ache of someone else's latex walking along my lover's thighs. And when they find nothing out about us, she apologizes to them and means it. And when war to me feels most justifiable, still my lover remains a god of forgiveness in a red backpack, sipping a cold cup of coffee. Still all anyone knows of anyone is our uniforms. If we have smuggled any addictions or joys or certainties or tiny kindnesses or new angers in here, we are told we must stuff them in our carry-ons and take them back to South Carolina with us. So we do. Thanks so much, everybody.